Hey, what's going on, everyone? Nick here to talk about the premiere of Moon Knight Episode 1 on Disney Plus. If you're new here and want to help support the channel, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button, notifications, and all that jazz. There will be spoilers, so let's just go ahead and dive in. Now, I know a little bit about Moon Knight. I'm familiar with him from some of the old Marvel Ultimate Alliance games and from the comics, of course, as well. Again, I'm not the most knowledgeable, um, but I know enough to sort of understand where this character comes from, what he's about, and what may potentially happen in this 6 episode series. We've got the character of Oscar Isaac plays, Stephen Grant slash Mark Spector, and he has what's known as a dissociative identity disorder, not schizophrenia. So it's almost a little bit like Gollum and Smeagol, I guess, is maybe the closest comparison we can kind of give, and we do get that in this episode to a certain extent. Now, I think we see more of Steven than we do of Mark. Mark really sorts to come out at the very end, when he's getting chased by this, demon, Egyptian demon dog or whatever. And then he turns into Moon Knight and just beats the crap out of it. And then the episode ends, which we've seen that part from the trailer and teaser that came out beforehand. Now, in terms of this episode overall, there are things that are different. I already know from the comic stance. Duchamp is a female now. Um, again, I know that there's going to be a lot that's changed for one reason or another. Um, and I think my curiosity overall is, are they going to tell a good story? We know that the MCU doesn't follow the source material and hasn't really followed the source material to a T. As much as I'd like to think there was some sort of parallel between the two, in much at times the MCU has gone off on a tangent, obviously to tell its own story, which some fans like and some fans don't like. I'm of the mindset where comics will always be the number one source. They'll always be at least for the most part, a lot of the older comics will always be top tier, um, and because that's obviously where they're pulling this information from. They're pulling these characters that have been written decades ago, finally giving them some spotlight attention, but then they go ahead and change it, which again is really interesting. And I think for the sake of telling the story correctly, that's what really matters. Um, and I think for the most part, Oscar Isaac did a pretty good job, portraying, Stephen Grant and Mark Spector. And we still don't know information yet. Like um, the story, I know how Mark Spector gets to be Moon Knight, but you don't. Potentially, maybe if you do, and then if you've read the comics or you just sort of read up about him online, then you know how it happens. You know his involvement. You know that the mysterious Egyptian figure that was approaching him in the elevator from that dark, horrific hallway. You know who that is? It's Khonshu, and Khonshu is the Egyptian moon god. He's a deity, however you want to pronounce it. And again, you've got 6 episodes to tell a story here with the way Disney Plus approaches, these limited series. Even though we might get a second season of Moon Knight, we don't know yet. But in the mindset of this only being one season, what are they going to leave out? What are they going to include? You've got 5 episodes now to tell the rest of the story and say and show how he became attached to Khonshu, how he got the scarab, why Arthur is trying to get it back from him, what his involvement is with Emmett, right? The the gator crocodile head looking Egyptian god. So, I think that being said, for Ethan Hawke's character, it's good to see that we know who the antagonist is. We see him in the first episode. Where sometimes in these sort of shows we don't see who the antagonist is, we don't know who the bad guys are, um, until halfway through the show, and they're like, "Great, we don't care about them." So I think because Ethan Hawke is a pretty big name, and I expect to see good things from him. And I think so far, even though he didn't really have a lot of screen time, I think the time that he did have on screen was pretty well done. I want to see more though. I'm really curious to see how they're gonna portray and evolve his character within the remaining 5 episodes. Um, I find it to see Oscar Isaac, pull off a British accent, which I think he did rather well. And of course, it kind of goes back to his normal accent with Mark Spector at the end of the episode. And I think Moon Knight's costume, looks great. I think they did a really good job with it. I think the scenery looks, was well done. Some of the CGI was obviously very noticeable, especially with the cupcake truck going down the mountain, twists and turns scene where there's the truck full of trees or logs rather, swerves, and it just looked obviously entirely fake, because there's no way you can actually pull that off in real life. Um, but aside from that, I think the rest of it was well done, and um, I think they did a pretty decent job creating the mystery around the character. My one thing about it was, um, I kind of wish they would have gotten to the end scene quicker and done a little bit more after the fact. So, in other words, instead of Mark Spector taking over at the end as Moon Knight in the gift shop area, or rather the bathroom, uh, have that happen maybe 10 minutes earlier. And again, that means you're cutting out stuff. But I think in order to sort of uh, maybe get to the point of this story sooner and include more information that might have more weight, more volume to it. Because I think some of the I don't want to take away from some of the character building that they tried to do or did with Stephen Grant's side, because obviously he's like this sort of pathetic character. You kind of feel a little empathetic towards him, like, man, this guy just does not have his shit together, you know. And it makes me wonder, who was it that asked out Layla? Was it Mark? Probably. He seems like the more um, take the bull by the horns type of person. So, but that being said, I'd maybe give this episode like a 7 out of 10. I hate to give it that rank because that's the rank that IGN usually gives things, and that's what they actually gave this one. And I don't often agree with their ratings, but I do think that they actually got this one right, and I think they did enough well in this episode, but there was still more to be desired. And I think for an intro episode to a new character that people, for the most part, aren't really familiar with, but a fair amount are. And again, knowing what I know based on the comics, I know that most of that we might not be accurate, and that they're probably going to create their own thing. And we'll know by the end of the season how much they followed, how much they got right, how much was changed. So I won't really go into all that right now, because I think a lot of it is just all based on speculation, and we'll see. So I'd like to know what other people think, based on what I've seen online in just a general, did people like it or not? I've been seeing more positive things. I think a lot of people have been saying they like it, and I'm always of the mindset, if you like something, that's great. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Again, I obviously liked it more than I disliked it, giving it a 7 out of 10. Um, so we'll see. I hope for the sake of this character who is a complete badass. I saw some critics saying that this isn't the show to show your kids. I didn't think it was that gory or bloody or horrified in scenes. Like I wasn't scared at all, or I didn't get spooked. The parts where he kind of just like zones out from Steven to Mark, and he flips back and then he's like, "Oh my god, what is this? My hand's all bloody. Oh my god, I have a gun in my hand." You know, sorry if it was a terrible British accent there. I just kind of did it on the spot. Don't hate me. um, but no, really, like, so what? We see some blood on his hand. We didn't see like the gruesome fight scene break out. So like, in terms of shows that are pretty like you know higher mature rated stuff, we're talking stuff like Daredevil and Punisher from Netflix, right? And ironically, I saw today that this is sort of unrelated, but related still to Disney Plus and their shows and their ratings and taking stuff off and restoring things. That they decided to restore a bloody scene uh, from the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. And there was a screenshot, and again, I don't know how many scenes they removed or whatnot, but they're like, no, we're going to add them back now that we have Moon Knight premiering, which is a little heavier. Um, and it may be a little darker to some extent, I think. But I think that's, won't even hold a candle to Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. I think that is going to feel more like a horror flick, and will be very dark. I mean, we've heard that quite a bit now. We've heard that from Sam Raimi, and some of the actors involved as well. So, but I think this is almost a different gear that we've shifted into with the TV sense of things for streaming purposes involving Marvel. I do think it's maybe a little bit darker, but it also feels like it's a little unrelated to Marvel. Like I think that was one of the cool things about Moon Knight is it almost it seemed a little bit different than having superpowers because of like the whole Egyptian deity thing. Like it can almost feel like completely separate from Marvel, and it being superhero related. So it's one thing I've always appreciated about his character. Like he's not like like a mutant, right? He doesn't have these mutant powers or cosmic powers or you know it's obviously a little mystical in the mystic realm, but a little bit different too. I think in some cases he's very could fit Moon Knight could fit the bill of something you know uh Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange related, in that sort of mystic realm again because of the whole deity situation. Um, but yeah, it's pretty enjoyable to see. It's different, right? It's a little nice, fresh character to see. So that being said, let me know what your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you indifferent? I just kind of want to see how the series plays out. Go ahead and leave your comments below. I will do my best to answer all of them. And until next time, I'll see you next week on Moon Knight episode 2. Cheers.